Today we'll be discussing From Blues to Hip Hop, the global impact of African American and Afro-diasporic music. This video essay focuses on the African American's foundational role in shaping American and global music.
Hi, you're in class with Dr. T.
I'm arguing it was because African Americans' music was allowed to be part of an openly polycultural understanding of music. That is to say, because of their particular fight, that is African Americans, their struggle for freedom was always rooted in fighting to be accepted as complex human beings. And at their best, artistic expression, they were resisting the hierarchical racial ideologies found in white supremacy. Also, I briefly want to explore some of the great artists who openly borrowed with love in the polycultural tradition. They respected different traditions and understood the interconnectivity. The African diaspora has been foundational in shaping American music and global music culture. From the circle dances and percussive instruments brought over by enslaved Africans to the blues, jazz, and hip-hop, the influence of African American music innovation reverberates worldwide. These forms have transformed American popular music and connected with and inspired Afro-diasporic communities throughout the Americas and beyond. Let's trace this journey from the origins of the blues through jazz, rock, and country music to hip-hop to underscore the global impact and the continual exchange among Afro-diasporic peoples. The blues emerged from the experiences of African-descended people in the American South, particularly from the pain, endurance, and creativity of those who had survived slavery and its aftermath. Its roots lie in African musical traditions, most notably the call and response format, rhythmic complexity, and the use of instruments like the banjo, which enslaved Africans adopted from West African string instruments. Circle dances, spirituals, and work songs laid the ground for the blues, which became one of the first distinctly African musical forms to impact mainstream culture. The blues were not simply sorrowful, but an expressive, poetic, and often humorous way of narrating Black life. Artists like Robert Johnson, Bessie Smith, and Muddy Waters created a sound that profoundly influenced the next wave of American and global music. The 12-bar blues format and its emphasis on improvisation became a template for countless other genres. Out of the blues came jazz, which was born in the crucible of New Orleans, a city where African, Caribbean, and European influences intersected. African Americans incorporated blues tonalities with Caribbean rhythms, ragtime syncopation, and yes, European classical forms, particularly Italian opera. Jazz itself took many forms, from the swing of Duke Ellington to the complex improvisations of bebop innovators like Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie, from the cool stylings of Miles Davis to the spiritual explorations of John Coltrane. Jazz was not a one-way cultural export. It became a site of Afro-diasporic exchange. Cuban musicians such as Chano Pozo collaborated with American jazz greats, influencing Latin jazz. Brazilian bossa nova with figures like João Gilberto and Antonio Carlos Jobim blended with American jazz and was embraced by artists such as Stan Getz and Ella Fitzgerald. Meanwhile, jazz also introduced tango in Argentina, or rather it influenced tango in Argentina and received reciprocal inspiration from Afro-Latin music throughout the hemisphere. The lineage of the blues is also present in the rise of rock and roll. African American artists such as Sister Rosetta Tharpe, Little Richard, and Chuck Berry were instrumental in developing the genre. Chuck Berry's guitar riffs and storytelling lyrics laid the groundwork for what would become a global phenomenon. White artists like Elvis Presley, who grew up in a black neighborhood and was deeply shaped by gospel, blues, and rhythm and blues, popularized the style. To his credit, Elvis never denied his debt to African American musicians. However, systematic racism ensured that many of the original innovators received neither the recognition nor the wealth they deserved. They were often marginalized and made invisible. British musicians, including the Beatles and Rolling Stones, also acknowledged the foundational role of African American music. They covered songs by Chuck Berry and Muddy Waters and saw themselves as part of a broader transatlantic music inheritance. The so-called British invasion was in fact a re-exportation of African music reframed through British performers. Country music, too, owes much to African American traditions. The banjo, central to early country music, was brought by enslaved Africans. Early country artists often collaborated with or borrowed from black blues and gospel traditions. Artists such as DeFord Bailey, the first African American performer on the Grand Ole Opry, and later Ray Charles with his album Modern Sounds in Country and Western Music, demonstrated the inseparability of black innovation from country's development. In the 1970s, hip-hop emerged in the Bronx amid urban decline, deindustrialization, and just plain old neglect. It was born in contexts where African Americans, West Indians, and Puerto Ricans lived together. That's right, blending sounds, languages, and rhythms. Hip-hop synthesized with Jamaican sound system culture, African American verbal traditions, those African Americans who had migrated from the South to places like the Bronx, and Latin percussion to a new form of expression that included DJing, MCing, breakdancing, and graffiti. Artists like Kool Herc, or DJ Kool Herc, who was Jamaican, Grandmaster Flash, and African Bambaataa, shaped the movement's early years. Hip-hop became a powerful voice for marginalized youth. Eventually, it grew into a global culture, influencing movements in Brazil, France, and Senegal. Like the blues and jazz, hip-hop is a product of African American creativity and a vessel for Afro-diasporic exchange. This music has brought enormous solidarity between different voices throughout the African diaspora. In conclusion, it should be known from enslaved Africans, field hollowers, and spirituals came the blues, a music form that reshaped the modern world. Its DNA can be found in jazz, rock and roll, country, hip hop, and even global genres like reggae, salsa, and tango. African American music traditions have both been influenced by the broader Afro-diasporic world. That's right, African Americans were influenced by other Afro-diasporic traditions, but also forming a feedback loop of innovation, resistance, and expression. To the erasure of black creators from the genres they pioneered reflects ongoing struggles against African American racism and racism broadly throughout their diaspora and cultural appropriation. Yet despite these injustices, African American music continues to shape how the world sounds and thinks about freedom, identity, and survival. From blues to hip hop, this musical legacy is one of the greatest testaments to the resilience and brilliance of the African diaspora. Thank you. Please like, please share, please subscribe, and smash that bell.